When the user creates a new friend, he doesn't see that the first name is required. Actually, he could just enter a last name and he could save it, and then Entity Framework would throw an error because we have the required attribute on the first name property of the friend model. When the user types in a character in the first name field and he removes it again, then the validation occurs. But now we want to display this validation from the beginning so that the user can see that the first name field is required. So let's see how we can do this. As you might remember, the validation occurs when we set a property. We have defined this model wrapper base class, and this class contains a setValue method that is called when a property of our friend wrapper is set. In that setValue method, we call the validatePropertyInternal method that executes the validation. Let's go to the friendDetailView model and let's scroll down to the loadAsync method. In the loadAsync method, we create a new friend, and then we wrap it in a friend wrapper. So now at the end of this method, we can just implement a little trick. Here I just check. If the friend's ID property is 0, this means a new friend has been created. Then I just set the first name property of that friend to an empty string. This will trigger the validation because the setValue method of the model wrapper class will be called for this property. Let's enter a comment here, little trick to trigger the validation. Now let's run the application again and let's see if this works. I create a new friend, and you see the first name field is already red. Now the user can see that the first name is required. When he just enters a last name, the save button is not enabled. So he has to enter something in the first name field that the save button gets enabled. Now we are done with creating new friends in the Friend Organizer application. Let's implement now the logic to delete friends. In this demonstration, we extend the Friend Organizer application so that the user can delete an existing friend. After a friend has been deleted, we also need to inform the navigation with an event, because the navigation also needs to remove that friend. You learn in this demonstration also how you can hide and display the friend detail view. After a friend has been deleted, we set the friend detail view model property of the main view model to null. In that case, we want to hide the friend detail view because there is no underlying friend detail view model. You learn how you can implement this with a content control and an implicit data template. The last thing that we do in this demonstration is to display a dialog before we delete an existing friend. This allows the user to cancel the delete action. Now let's switch to Visual Studio and let's start implementing the delete feature. Here I've opened the friend detail view of the Friend Organizer application. In this horizontal stack panel, I have already added a delete button beside of the save button. As you can see, the command property of that delete button is bound to a delete command property. The friend detail view model is in the data context of this view, so the delete command property needs to be on the friend detail view model. But I have good news, I have created it already. So let's open up the friend detail view model. I select here the delete command, and you see here is this property below the save command property. In the constructor of the friend detail view model, I already initialized that delete command property with a new delegate command. The execute method is called onDeleteExecute. So I right-click this method and I say go to definition. Now we need to implement the delete logic. So inside of this onDeleteExecute method, I just grab the friend repository and I call the remove method. We don't have that remove method yet. To the remove method I pass the friend model. So I grab the wrapper and the wrapper has the model property that contains the friend entity. I press Ctrl- to generate that method in the iFriend repository interface. Now let's open up the iFriend repository interface, and here we see our new created remove method. Now we need to implement that method in the friend repository. So I place the cursor behind the interface and I press Ctrl- to implement it. I scroll down and here we have the remove method. To remove the friend, I just grab the context, I go to the friends DB set and I call here the remove method and I pass in that entity. Now the context knows that this friend is deleted. So we can go back to the friend detail view model, and here after we have removed the model from the repository, we call the save async method on our friend repository. I await it and I make this onDeleteExecute method async. Now let's run the application and let's see if this works. I select a friend here and I click the new delete button. I have clicked it, but you can see the friend stays in the navigation and also the detail view stays open. But is the friend really deleted? We will see it when we restart the application. So let's see if this friend Anna is still here. I restart the Friend Organizer application and you see Anna is gone. So now what we need to do when we delete a friend, we need to tell the navigation view that the friend has been deleted, and we should also hide the friend detail view. These are the next features that we implement. After we have deleted a friend in this onDeleteExecute method of the friend detail view model, we need to inform the navigation view model of this deletion. This allows the navigation view model to remove that friend from the navigation. But how can we inform the navigation view model? Of course, by using an event with Prism's event aggregator. Here in the event folder we have already some events. Let's right-click this folder and let's add another class. I call this class AfterFriendDeleted I inherit this class from Prism's PubSub class, and I want to have the friend ID as a parameter, so I define an integer here. I press Ctrl- to add a using directive for Prism events. I make this class public and I remove the unnecessary usings. Now we can go back to the friend detail view model. Here, after we have called the saveAsync method of the friend repository, we can publish our new AfterFriendDeleted event. So I grab the event aggregator and I grab the event from the event aggregator, AfterFriendDeleted and I want to publish it with the ID of our friend. Now we can go to the navigation view model and we can subscribe to the AfterFriendDeleted So I open up the navigation view model and I go to the constructor. Here in the constructor, I use the event aggregator to get the event, the AfterFriendDeleted and I want to subscribe to it. I call the method just AfterFriendDeleted. I press Ctrl- to generate that method in the navigation view model. Now here we have it, and as it is a private method, I move it to the bottom. I do the same with the AfterFriendSaved method. So I cut both methods and I paste them at the bottom below these public members. Now we can implement the logic here. So first let's change the parameter name from object to friendID, so it's clear what this is. Then we can grab that friend from the navigation view model's friends property. Be aware that this friends property contains navigation item view models. A navigation item view model has an ID property, and this ID property contains the friend ID, as the navigation item view model represents a friend in the navigation. This means we can just call the single or default method here, and we grab the navigation item view model where the ID is equal to the incoming friend ID. If we have such a navigation item view model, we just remove it from our friends collection. So the navigation item view model should disappear from the UI. Let's see this in action. I create a new friend, I call the friend Anna, and I save the friend. Now this is an existing friend and it is in the navigation. Now I click the delete button. And you see the friend disappeared from the navigation. The next thing that we do now is to hide the friend detail view after a friend has been deleted. In the previous clip we have introduced this AfterFriendDeleted event. We use it to inform the navigation view model that a friend has been deleted. Now let's also subscribe to that event in the main view model. This allows us to set the friend detail view model property of the main view model to null after a friend has been deleted. So I go to the constructor and I use here the event aggregator to grab the AfterFriendDeleted event. And I just subscribe to that event. I call the subscription method AfterFriendDeleted. I press Ctrl- to generate that method. And let's also add a line break here before the subscribe call. I scroll a bit down and I cut the method here and I move it to the bottom of my class where we have the private members. Let's also adjust the parameter and let's name it friendID. Now after a friend has been deleted, I just set the friend detail view model property of the main view model to null, so we can react in the user interface to this. Now let's open up the main window. Here in the main window, we have the friend detail view that binds to that friend detail view model property. If this friend detail view model property is null, the friend detail view shouldn't be visible. One way to solve this is to introduce a bool property in the view model that you can use to bind the visibility property of this friend detail view. But this approach is good if you have just one view, but later in this application we will have multiple different views. So we need a more flexible and better approach. A great approach is to use the content control and an implicit data template. So let's just change this friend detail view here to a content control. Instead of binding the data context property, we bind the content property of that content control to the friend detail view model. Now let's run the application. As you can see, nothing is displayed on the right side. This is because the friend detail view model property is null. Now when I select a friend, you can see something on the right side. This is the result of the toString method of the friend detail view model class. As the friend detail view model is not a UI element, the content control doesn't know how to render it, so it just displays the result of the toString method. But now we can tell the content control how to render a friend detail view model by specifying an implicit data template. So let's do this now. Let's scroll up in this main window SAML file, so that we can add an implicit data template to the resources of the main window. So here in the resources, I create a data template, and I need to set the data type on the data template. We want to create a user interface for the friend detail view model. So the data type is the friend detail view model. I use the xtype markup extension to set that type. But I need to create a namespace mapping. I just copy that view mapping and I name it view model. And here also the namespace is called view model. Now we can use this alias here and we should find the friend detail view model. IntelliSense doesn't display it, but believe me, it's correct. Now what's the user interface for the friend detail view model? This one is really simple. It's just the friend detail view. Now the content of the data template, in this case the friend detail view, has automatically the data item in the data context. In this case the data item is the friend detail view model. Exactly what we want. Normally in the resources in WPF, you need to set the xKey attribute to define a key over which you reference the resource. On this data template, we can omit the key and we just set the data type. This is called an implicit data template because we don't have to reference it explicitly by its key with the static resource markup extension. Instead of referencing this data template explicitly, it will be found implicitly by the WPF inside of this window. Let me explain to you how this works. When I scroll down to the content control, you can see that we have bound the content property to the friend detail view model property. When the content property of the content control contains a friend detail view model, it will dynamically find that implicit data template and will create that friend detail view. So now when we run the application, we should see this. You can see by default we have no friend detail view now. Now I select a friend and the friend detail view comes up. So I can navigate through the friends like I want. Let's create a new friend and I call it Anna and I save that friend. Now we have the friend in the navigation. Now I click the delete button and you will see that the friend disappears from the navigation and also this friend detail view will disappear now. So this works like expected. Now the last thing that we do in this module is displaying a message box to the user that allows him to cancel the delete action.